So today I've been kind of asked to come in and talk a little bit about goal setting. You know, we all have kind of ambitions that we want to go towards. We're kind of going through this next chapter. We've done a lot of experience and now we're on to our next challenge. So in that transition period, how do we keep ourselves motivated, keep focused on what the goal is, really find that next position, business, etc. So today's agenda, we're going to kind of first, let's take a time to look at our current state. Where are we? Think about how we got here, the experience we had, some of the reasons that we went into that area, if we want to do something different, if we want to do something the same. How do we get to where we want to be? So after we take a look at ourselves and what we're currently at, where do we want to be? So kind of that gap analysis between looking at the current and the future. Then talking about and diving into practicing this new, really kind of started revolutionizing goal setting and making it very simple but very metrics focused. So a strategic way for kind of plotting that path forward to keep us motivated, keep us working towards what we want. So it sounds like there's a decent mix between people who are interested in kind of the consulting, maybe doing their own business, but then also that mix of actually finding a career position to kind of challenge themselves. And then what pitfalls kind of hold us back from actually making that goal come true? So what's the purpose of goal setting? Clearly, it's to get from here to there. That's why it's very important for us to take some time first and look at where we currently at. And we're going to take a big, broad picture. So it's not going to be just, job-wise, but life-wise, where we are in our career, our family, the fun that we want to have, our friendships, and do a real, true life assessment, kind of looking at that aspect. So I'm going to kind of hand out these first. I'm going to jump right in. And then it's really pretty broad, and that's the goal, is to kind of, when you're looking for a new transition, many times there are reasons why we transition out. So I think you had mentioned intensity. So I might have liked the work, but it was too intense, too stressful, took up too much time, things like that. So we want to look at where we are at different aspects of our lives and where we want to. So there's two columns on all the different areas. In the first column, I want you to rate yourself A or F, and we're not thinking of F as in total F, but thinking about where you are and how much time and attention you're paying to this area of your life. And then in the second column, think about where you really want to pay that much attention in your life. So thinking through kind of in that ideal state in some of these areas, where are you and where you want to be? Take some time to kind of look through that and kind of grade yourself, because again, it's important for us to think about, is it the job I wanted? Was it too stressful? Was it the environment? Did it take time away from my family or my relationship? Maybe your relationship brought you here and you're in this area now. If you were to think of it prioritizing in some aspects too, like for me to be truly happy, I have to have an A in these 3-4 buckets. You know what? Second priority, maybe a B. Some of these I don't really care about. They're not that important when I'm thinking about what would make me happy in the future. How much work these days impacts our everyday life too. Go around the room and just to talk about the prioritization. I'm not going to ask you to share where you've rated yourself currently, but either your top priority and ideal or the biggest gap that you have right now. Either that you prefer.
So my biggest gap is probably in friendship and fun. There's probably a good reason for that. I've moved over here last summer and don't know that many people. So that's probably, I can understand that. What was the other one?
And then your highest priority and your ideal.
Well, I've got quite a lot actually.
Everybody put A's, didn't you?
I did. Nearly all the top 5 or 6 are all A's, because I think they kind of align with my own values as well.
But if you had to pick one, what was your top priority right now? I mean, clearly over the next year or two, you can focus on.
Top priority is probably self-development.
What about you? Biggest gap and top priority?
Health. On the career.
Which one's the gap, which one's the?
Like, I mean, career is I think the gap.
And what about for you?
For me, career is the biggest gap, and my highest priority is health, which is at an A right now, and because I've been focusing on that a lot more than the career, so I need to re-swizzle that.
Makes sense.
My area of closeness to my ideal would be self-development and family. The biggest gap, however, is in careers. That's why I'm here right now.
I like it.
What you?
My biggest gap is career, and that's my biggest priority right now. But close
What
that
about
gap.
you?
Yeah, the same.
Awesome.
My biggest gap is love. And I think self-development is what will help my other things.
You're getting group hugged by the end of class.
Hi.
Biggest gap and
Biggest gap is career, and then my best thing is AA for health and stress. Happy, I'm healthy. I'm happy, good.
I'm not sure what my gap is, but what I did realize was the things most important were like community, health, friendship.
My biggest gap is health and stress, and the most important things are family, friendship, love. Yeah.
what about you?
The biggest gaps would be self-development and love. I don't need a group hug.
Not today.
Can't even hug at church anymore. And health and stress are probably like where I'm prioritizing, but also my smallest gap, as well as community and friendship.
Biggest gap and priority is career.
Good. You're in the right place.
My biggest gap, I think, is also in love, but it's closely behind is career. And my ideal, my goal, my priority right now is career.
Okay. And then what about you, Jennifer?
I think my biggest gaps are in self-development and community. I have something I've been wanting to kind of, like a new issue area that I've been wanting to get into for a long time, but haven't been able to have it happen in my last 2 jobs. I can't get there. And then I would say community, and I'm sort of feeling like if I kind of realign myself in my network, I might be able to get closer. I'm trying to work on that right now. So those are my 2 biggest gaps, but where I feel like I'm doing really well is health and stress, family, friendship, love, which I have through friendship. Doing really well.
And what about you?
My biggest gap is making money.
So that between stress and career. So why is it important that we look at this? So we've got a lot of different answers. Some of them talk about kind of career past didn't match what I really want to contribute to the world. Some of them match, well, I like what I contribute, I just didn't like the environment or how stressful it was. Some are, I'm going to want a job where I have enough time to balance actually having love and friendship and have time dedicated for that, so I'm not working 80 hours a week. I'd like to actually have that in my life as well. And then health. You know, how does that job that you choose, that stress, that lifestyle impact your health? So that's why we have to take some time to look at kind of what we got, how we got here, and where we want to go next. So a lot of times in the beginning, you know, we're growing up as kids, we have our dream job. Anybody remember their dream job? What was your dream job?
I had it already, thank God, right?
Get out of here.
Once you don't know what you have to use it, right?
What was yours?
I had 3 dream jobs as a child: architect, missionary, Christian missionary, doing Christian mission work and lawyer.
Okay. Did any of those come to fruition?
I became a paralegal, so I was close.
Okay. Anybody else? Sure that, so no veterinarians, firefighters?
Architects first, and then international journalists.
Okay. Oh, awesome. So, a lot of times we have those big dreams as kids, but then we get out there and it's time to think through college and get a job and make money, and we get to kind of stuck in this, like, what can I do right now? What do I need to do to survive? This kind of mentality of, like, I gotta do something, and sometimes we fall into our jobs in the beginning. So, sometimes we are too realistic, and it's okay in this next chapter to spend some time dreaming about what that dream environment is, what the dream career is, who the coworkers are, who the boss is. Those are okay to start thinking big picture, because this is the next chapter. We've gone through a good amount, and now we get to think big up the next step. So when we want to think long term, we tend to not, because it can be too overwhelming. It can kind of get really scary. Well, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Whoa. And then we go into whatever we find is the next thing.
Paralysis.
Right? Exactly. So it doesn't always seem feasible. When we think super long term, it's really hard to be like, is that even possible? How would I do that? Doesn't seem realistic. Well, listen, I have to do a job. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to be an actress growing up. But it was like, who's going to make a career of that? Everybody wants, So it didn't seem realistic. And then hard to think about the action. So it's really hard to break down that dream career into steps and work backwards to think, what are the first couple little steps I can take to get me closer and closer and closer? So when we back up and look at the trees in the forest, we can actually think about, how do we get where we want to be? So again, it's okay to start dreaming big this round. This is the career that we want from here on out till retirement, when we get to relax on the beach. Consider your life wants. That's why we did what we just did as an exercise, because many times we fall into super stressful jobs, we fall into not so conducive work environments, we're doing something that we didn't intend to do, but we just happen to be really good at it, or we have more experience and training on it. And so thinking about life as a whole, and it's time to start thinking long term a little bit more. It's okay to think, in 5 years and 6 years, what am I going to be super happy doing? And what do I got to do now to get there? So we're going to work on, in our goal setting, planning from big to small. And how that sounds weird, right? Big to small. But working backwards to come up with those small steps that will move us closer and closer. We're going to make actionable plans. So thinking big picture, but also thinking actions. And again, those small actions that get us there and get us there. Measures for success. We don't always actually put metrics to the actions that we do. So actually, how am I going to measure in 3 months if I was successful at busting my butt to get where I really truly want to be in 5 years, 2 years, etc. And we're going to get committed. It takes that commitment that once you set goals, how many of us have ever set a New Year's resolution? How many of us have stopped saying New Year's resolutions because we don't actually do them? Many times every month. Exactly. So many times it's because, we use the infamous lose weight. Well, yeah, I want to lose, 50 pounds this year. And it's like, well, I got a little time until December when I'll start to have to crunch time. So it's about actually thinking in small bites that are going to get us there, and on top of thinking long term at the same time. So what is the difference between short-term and long-term planning, and how do we go from big to small? So it starts with dreaming big about your 3 to 5 year goal. Just like we would ask an organization to do, we're going to ask you to think about, ideally looking at your assessment, knowing what you like to do, what is that big 3 to 5 year goal? Does anybody know their big 3 to 5 year goal at this point? What would you say it is?
My 3 to 5 year goal? I would like to be at the management level in organization, providing sort of strategic leadership in terms of kind of building their portfolio in international development.
Okay. Anybody else know their 3 to 5 year goal?
Yeah, I'd like to be an executive director of a nonprofit dedicated to financial education.
Awesome. So how do we take that big goal and start to make it into bite-sized chunks so that it starts to seem feasible, it takes away the overwhelming, and it starts to give us actionable steps to start to progress towards that so that we know if we're doing these things, we're working towards that and we're more likely. We all know that things have happened in our lives where we've planned to a T something and then it worked out in a way that we could have never planned. So it's about putting the energy out there, it's about shooting for the stars and doing that, get committed over and over again. And even if it doesn't happen according to plan, you might have someone that introduces you to something. And just having that energy out there helps do that. So if we take the 3 to 5 year and we look at it annually, so what do I have to get done this year to get me to that 3 to 5 year goal? And then furthermore, we actually break it down into quarterly. So the goal framework that we're going to use today is about thinking about your annual goal in comparison to your 3 to 5 year goal, and then setting quarterly goals and metrics to help you make sure that you're progressing towards what you want to progress towards. So, everybody's thing you've all been waiting for, the miraculous, perfect goal-setting thing. We know that's not true, right? It's about setting good ones, it's about setting good metrics, and it's about being committed to those goals and metrics. So there's a new framework out. It's not super new, but it's called OKRs, Objectives and Key Results. So how many of you ever heard of KPIs? What about MBOs? So KPIs, key performance indicators. In the beginning of this kind of work world and industrial revolution, we wanted to identify how do we measure individuals' performance in an organization. So we started coming up with these metrics to measure people's performance on. Eventually, Peter Drucker decided, well, we're focusing on the individual, but what about the organization and the business? And that's where MBOs came from, so managed by business objectives. OKRs has spouted out of that work, and organizations use it at the company level all the way down to the individual level so that everyone knows exactly where they're tied in. This applies to our personal life too. So using Google example, Google actually set an objective. Anybody heard of Google? No? No? Okay. So they set an objective, build the next generation client platform for future web applications. In simple terms, it was really build the best browser. In the first year, in 2008, they set a key result, which is the metric, to reach 20 million users. But by the end of the year, they'd only reached 10. Now, many of us who weren't committed to our objective would have shied away. We would have started setting maybe 15 million users the next round, but they didn't. They continued to shoot for the stars. So they actually doubled it, more than doubled it in 2009 as a goal, 50 million. They still didn't reach it, but by 2010 they doubled it again and they reached it. So sometimes our goals don't come to fruition like that, but we like that self-gratification. So it's hard to set a long-term goal and stick with it, not get demotivated, but it's important. And that's why you have to set something that matters, that fits with your life goals as well as your work goals. This is why we say aspire for higher. So in general, you could set your goals at the most probable. Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna reach them, that's pretty safe. I like to check 100% or all A's all the time. I like to make sure I'm achieving them. But we say set best possible. So it would be amazing if by the end of this quarter, I did this. And we know that if you shoot for more than probable and best possible, you're actually more likely to get higher than most probable. You might not get best possible, and that's okay, because with a concept like OKRs and wanting you to shoot for the moon, we say that 85-90% of achieving your OKRs is good. If you're achieving your OKRs 100% every time, you probably can challenge yourself and shoot a little higher. So what is an objective? What's the difference between an objective and a key result? So an objective is kind of the what and why, the big picture, the pretty words of it all. So I want to, find the best job that makes me happy. I want to find a job where I contribute to my community through the skills that I have. Very, very big, broad, the what and the why. What do you want and why is it important? The key results are how you measure it. So there's always a number attached for the key result, and it needs to be something that you can actually measure. So a lot of times people will want to be like 100% of job interviews passed, 100% of, what does 25% look like? What is the true measurement there? Is there a specific number of job interviews? How are you going to tell that you're actually on track? So you want to set realistic numbers, not the level of realistic, you want to set measurable and trackable numbers so that you can truly tell where you are and where you need to put more work in. The key is, though, with key results, you want to focus on outcomes, not output. So as much as possible, this is not meant to be a task list. This is not meant to be, well, I have to do this, and then I have to do this, and then if I do this, and then I do this. It's, if I did all of those, what would I produce as an outcome? So thinking long term at the end of the quarter, what would come out of it? So we're going to start with personal. I know everybody's here for professional, but it's important to keep both sides balanced. I'm going to hand out another sheet for you all. Take one down, pass it down. So this includes a couple of areas of life. We're going to focus on two, personal and professional, because many times in this next chapter, both matter very much. All through life. So this is what we call a goal matrix. We're going to focus just on the first line right now. So if I'm thinking about something like OKRs, how do they impact me personally? How can I set some objectives and key results that help me make sure that I'm balancing my personal and professional? So when it comes to your personal life, it could be like some of the things that we talked about in the assessment. It could be friends, it could be finances, it could be family, fun, health, relationship, community. I want to be out with my community more and impacting and giving back. So it's not just about work, it's about having that right balance, but still finding that work. So an example for a personal life would be to spend more time with family and friends. And definitely in some work environments, there can be that stress. Maybe you're stressing over job interviews and applying to applications. So how do you still succeed at that, but also keep your home life and personal life satisfying? So an example of a key result would be 6 events with friends. And we're thinking quarterly, so 3 months at a time. So for me to balance and have more time, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing a certain amount of events with my friends. I'm going to have a certain amount of family dinners. And I'm going to do 12 calls. My family's not around here, so this is an example a little bit more for me. But 12 calls to my family or friends. So I'm going to intentionally reach out and talk to people in my life that matter more. Tell them about what I'm doing personally and professionally and where I want to go. So on the first line of the goal matrix, think through, based on quarters, 3 months at a time, working towards that year goal, what are some things personally that you want to do to improve your life? Saving the professional side. Just real high level further.
So I had my biggest gap there was in the friendship thing, so I think it's taking some of my goals to spend more time constructing friendships.
Okay, that would be the objective. How would you measure that?
I'd kind of set myself some, so I've sort of said to trying to do 2 events with people that I know, that I wouldn't say I'm necessarily my friends yet, try to build those friendships, two per month.
So 6 for the quarter.
6 for the quarter.
Okay.
Kind of events, bigger like a dinner or going out and doing something together.
Yeah. To build those relationships.
And then I guess some of it is also smaller kind of passing interactions as well. I'm trying to focus on it a little bit. Build rapport in that sort of way as well.
And it's about setting those metrics. So again, if you were to go 3 months to the end, you could say, did I have 6 events? Is that something that I was committed to doing? If I did, or if I got pretty close, what gaps did I have, and how do I plan better for the next quarter?
And could he like have for one of his goals to not only go out with his friends, but actually to branch it out and find new friends from his existing friends, people that he hasn't quite met yet or hasn't spent a lot of time with, but then take it to that next level where I'm developing a new circle of friends based on this mutual friendship.
Yeah. So you could, Eventbrite, things like that. Look up a hobby, one of your hobbies, and join a hobby group.
Yeah, I've got that down as well. It's like playing more golf as well. That's
How many times do you want to play more golf?
2 rounds a month. That's in there.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else want to share one?
So I want to concentrate, focus on fitness. I want to hit the gym or like outside walking at least 3 times a week.
Okay. And how would you qualify a workout? If you went for 5 minutes, does that qualify as a workout?
No, 20 to 25 minutes. So
Okay.
Up to 30 minutes.
Okay, awesome. So it would almost be the same. It'd kind of be 2 metrics in one, but you'd only get a check mark if it was 30 minutes.
Yes.
So I want to go to the gym 2 times a week for 30 minutes. And making sure that that's very clear what you're measuring.
Yes, and this is not going to stop here. I want to kind of extend it to get to CrossFit or swimming, some kind of thing, but not now. I just want to start just hitting the local gym, the community gym, and then kind of build up on it later.
Okay. Is there something you could do to start on the building up later, though?
I have been like researching what kind of gym is offering CrossFit, where I can go for learn swimming and that kind of stuff, but I'm learning about it. I'm doing research, but I haven't started doing it.
Mm-hmm. In that paralyzed mode, though, right? So CrossFit's something pretty intense.
Yes.
It's a group thing, so you get a lot of accountability. So even starting to go to 1 CrossFit event a month pushes you to that best possible versus that most probable, right? So once you get into CrossFit, they're pretty accountable. So are you coming today? You get that accountability partner.
Okay.
So make sure we're not shying away from that, right? Maybe dip your toe in. Research is doing it is the best research, right?
Okay.
So challenge yourself a little.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So flipping through. I swear this is working. There we go. So how does it apply to our professional life? So it could be the new job role that we're talking about. It might be actually wanting to do a business of our own. Maybe we want to stay in consulting or event planning and doing something brand new that might not have an actual title somewhere. Maybe it's a new company, learning new skills. Some of you said self-development. Maybe being more engaged in the work that we're doing, liking it more. Getting a new level. Maybe my experience is at mid-level management and I want to find a position as an executive director and things like that. So an example for professional development, I use this in regards to myself clearly, but more proficient at leadership. So I'm going to attend 3 training courses over the quarter. So it's 1 training course a month. I'm going to go to 6 meetings with mentors. So 2 times a month, I'm going to go sit with a mentor and learn about how they did it, my questions get answered, avenues they could introduce me to either more skills or other mentors. And then the key result 3, I'm actually going to do a survey on myself around the people that have worked with me to understand how I am and what skills I need to actually improve on. So this could go to, and I'm going to challenge you guys, this could go to the interview process. This could go to how many, applications you're putting out there, how many hours you're spending researching on the company that you're going for an interview on. This can go to actually hours practiced. Are you practicing with someone before going into an interview? And things like that. So now with the second line, I'm not sure why the white marked out, do your professional goals. And we'll dive into this one a little deeper. And again, think about your annual goals first and then work backwards in understanding the pieces to get there.
Now, the objective for each quarter, should that objective be the same, but the key results would change? So for instance, if it's to get a new job that I really love.
So that would be your annual goal.
Right.
So in the first quarter, you might find organizations that do what I love.
Okay, so that would be the objective for that quarter.
And then, so it can be both. There's not an exact science. It can be something where if you have a long-term goal, it stays the objective. And then there's other aspects where my objective is changing quarter to quarter. But in something like that, if your long-term goal is to find that dream job, then what's your first and top priority for that quarter? So it might be, like I said, targeting organizations, almost like a salesperson. What organizations would I love to work with? And then building a network the next quarter in those organizations. How do I go to these networking events where I know people that work there at and can introduce me, I can build relationships. Having trouble coming up with, how do I create these?
So another thing I do, I mentioned this last week, I'm a stand-up comedian. And so I did actually do this at the start of the year, and I'm supposed to say it kind of worked. So I did a kind of similar sort of thing to this. And I was kind of flailing about looking for gigs. And then I said, I'll do one a week. I'll just do one a week. And I found that I've been able to do that. Because I've kind of prioritised it. I've kind of gone, right, I'm going to do that. So it was literally just setting that target of wherever it is, how many people in there.
And then you go to one and
then
they
other
all of a
things happen.
sudden talk about you and
yeah.
they're like, hey, you should also see here.
So actually the more I've done it, the easier, the more I found out about.
So it's all about putting that energy out there. If you work towards something, you can have a plan and you should have a plan. But it's that energy towards something that makes things happen in ways that we wouldn't always expect. Like you couldn't have planned out 6 months of the one shows.
No.
But all
and
of a sudden,
I kind of week to week at the minute, but it's in front of my mind that I haven't done one this week, or why haven't I done one? I've got to get out and do one.
Yeah.
And it makes you that little bit more proactive. And actually, I think 2 weeks ago, I didn't have one, and I just turned up at night that I knew was on and saw if I could go on, and I could. So kind of that being kind of pretty good. So yeah, that, kind of just reasserts that it does work. I did a very, very similar thing to this right at the start of the year with all sorts of facets, and that was one that I kind of went, right, I've got to make it, I'm the person who can make this happen.
Anybody else? Thoughts? OKRs?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. One is related to that. So when I've done this sort of thing before, and I've had, but maybe I wasn't specific about the goals, and life gets ahead of you. Like I do a lot of day work where I can work for the day or the week, so, and it's just consulting that, I can just get, but it's not what I want to be doing, so I put off actually looking into actual jobs that I would want to do. I put off, so how would any help to keep focused so that, like life doesn't get in the way?
I mean, we're going to touch on pitfalls. That's a kind of a piece of
okay.
it. But OKRs, you don't want to set, 10 OKRs with 3 key results each. The goal is to have you focus. So at max, 3 objectives with maybe 2 key results.
Okay.
So that you're really focused on what's most important to deliver this quarter, the next 3 months. The goal of the reason that we do 3 months is that sense of urgency. Again, when you set that New Year's resolution, you knew you had till the end of the year to kind of see where you made it. So if you only have 2 or 3 key results under one objective, you know that you have to spend that time and you actually have to dedicate the time. Like, we still all make choices, right? We have to, in some ways, let life get in the way. There are things that happen that we can't, but then there's always a piece that we are able to, those couple of hours we do have free, what are we going to spend it on? What are we going to do in comparison? Any other, I haven't heard much from the middle of the crowd. What about you? What did you do for one of your objectives and key results?
I'm a little lost right now.
Okay, tell me why. Better yet, tell me your big annual goal.
Well, actually, they're along the same line. Obtaining my PMP, Project Management Professional, and getting back my French language skills.
Okay. So what do they, let's think on the PMP side. What's the reason that you want to get your PMP? What's the big?
The big, because I think it'll open a lot of doors for me for my career.
Okay. So do you want a career in project management?
I've been doing it for 20-some odd years, and it's something that I like, and it's something I'm very good at. So yes, it's been a stumbling block because studying has been difficult for me. The competition between studying and finding a job has been difficult for me. So that's why I decided to study for the PMP and French at the same time because they're using different parts of my mind.
Okay. So what I would challenge you to do is think of an inspiring. Objectives are meant to inspire us. So if your objective is find a job, it's probably not going to inspire you. So find
I actually have to disagree because I get really excited about some jobs and put all this effort into it, and you know, when I submit my package, I feel really, you know.
So what about those jobs gets you excited?
The possibility of doing all the things I like to do.
Okay. So find a great project management role that has all of the things that I like, that utilizes all of my skills and passions.
Right.
That is an inspiring objective, right? Something like get a job, not as much. So if I were to find a project management role where I utilize all of my skills and passion, that's exciting.
Right.
And that's the difference between maybe applying to some jobs where you're like, I'm just doing mechanics, and applying to these jobs which I get really excited for and I put a lot of effort in.
Right.
Then under that, your key results come into play. And you can balance the two. So one key result is on how many jobs you're applying to, or how many jobs that fit the objective that you really want. And that's one aspect. Another key result would be attaining the project management certification. So they actually reach to, if we can get that alignment and get clear on how they actually lead to the same big objective, it doesn't feel like we're pulled in multiple directions the same way. Now the question would be, does French fit under there and that big objective? And is it helping you reach your objective, or is that potentially, I can't answer that, that's up to you. But if my goal is to find a project management that utilizes my skills and passion, project management certification, applying to jobs, we just want to help utilize OKRs to keep us focused.
Well, there have been probably 5 job announcements that I had that want someone to be fluent in French.
Okay, perfect.
And French was, in growing up, French was the only course that I did extremely well the entire time.
Okay. So then, yeah, it might fit under there.
So it gives me confidence.
Okay. Awesome. So like I said, that's a question, if it does make sense, then it's something that's helping you reach towards that objective, and then you have that clear alignment and focus.
Right.
So I know we're kind of, any one other person want to share? No, we're probably. All right. So, okay. So why do we fall short of reaching our goals? Anybody got some ideas?
Well, I think part of it is not being willing to reach beyond what we think we're capable of. So I think, the last 2 jobs I had, I thought were really out of reach for me, but I was able to get myself into them, and I think part of it was just being incredibly determined, just really being having a lot of determination. So I recently talked to someone. I'm unemployed right now, and they said, well, maybe if you just kind of lower your standards a little bit as to what you're looking for, you can go in here and then maybe you'll move up. I'm like, no. I always,
shoot higher.
I shoot higher, even if it's going to make my life a little bit,
But that's what gets us into these sometimes is we set up, like I said, your objective is not to just get a job. You guys could all go work at Walmart or McDonald's right now,
Right.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it's about finding the right job, the job that gets you excited, the job that impacts your community. It's something bigger picture that gets you excited to apply for those jobs instead of, I've been through the job application process, you can't just submit a resume these days, you gotta rewrite your resume every time. It gets monotonous, but if you have that goal and that big objective in mind, it helps keep you motivated towards that. So some pitfalls we have with goal setting, and particularly the difference between goal setting and actually executing on those goals. Lots of us have set goals, but when we're only accountable to ourselves, lots of times we can fall short on them. So a lot of times we set too many metrics or milestones or too many goals. The point of OKRs is not to set a laundry list of things that you want to do. It's about to get very focused and specific about what's going to have the biggest impact on your life and your life's happiness right now. So, like I said, maybe 2 objectives with 1 or 2 key results tops. We know with all the other areas of life we talked about today, it's really hard to be able to have a laundry list of things that we want to accomplish in short time. So it's about being focused. If you only could do 2 objectives or 1 objective, what would it be? Identifying something actionable or observable. So we have to do the task list. You're going to have outcomes, such as, you'd set 1 a week. Key results are about listing out the tasks that you have to do. Those are the outcomes of if you did all the tasks. Doesn't mean you still don't have to think through, well, to get job interviews, I have to fill out this many applications, I have to do this much research, I have to spend this much time doing them. Just don't make your task list your actual OKRs. So
I'm sorry, say that again.
Don't make your task list your actual OKRs. Or should I say your KRs? Your task list, your KRs are, if you did all of these tasks, what would the outcome be? Consistent tracking mechanisms. Many of us set it and forget it. When you use the infamous New Year's gonna lose weight, you weigh yourself every week and you track it somewhere. Do the same thing here. Look at how many hours you're spending looking at jobs, filling out applications, researching the organizations that you do want to work for, networking with people that are going to help introduce you to other people that will help you get where you want to. Track that time and see if you feel, based on what you're getting results-wise, if you feel that that's actually enough time, too much time, to keep that balance. Sharing your goal with others. This group is especially great for that because we all have networks and people, but once we get it out of our head as an objective and how we're measuring it, we're more accountable. So when we say in our head, yeah, I'm gonna do this, we don't mind letting ourselves down, believe it or not. It's that gym partner, it's that CrossFit group. When you come and then don't come and they go, hey, we didn't see you last time. all of a sudden you get this like, darn it. And next time when you go to say, no, I'm not gonna go, you're like, well, they're gonna ask me where I was last time. So we're a lot more likely to be held accountable to other people. So get a partner. Hey, how are you doing on your OKRs? Hey, do you know anywhere, have you seen anything that you can help me on mine, or vice versa? So accountability is key. And then checking in regularly. So that goes with the tracking, but also with the people. So using your tracking and checking in with your accountability partner regularly to say, hey, where are you at? Hey, how can I help support you? Oh, hey, I heard this comedy gig is this place I saw they have comedy shows. Did you know about that? If you never told me that was your goal, I would have never been able to support you. So being very clear about your OKRs helps you communicate them in a way that others can hold you accountable and can support you. And so what are your next steps here? Finalize your OKRs. Think through what your goal is for this year. And then think through quarter by quarter what you have to do as a big picture to get there, and how are you going to measure your success. Share them with others, like I said. Share them with the team here, share them, shout it from the rooftops. What do you want to get done this year? What is that beautiful job that you want to find that's going to make you so happy in the next 3 to 5 years? Identify your method of tracking. Identify how often you're going to update it. So that's kind of where the checking in comes in. How often are you going to talk to your accountability partner? How often are you going to measure where you're at? You don't have to do it daily. Hey, a reflection at the end of the week. Hey, this is what I had set for myself. How far have I gotten this week? Well, looking at my tracker, okay, now what plan am I going to make for next week to make sure that I'm progressing along? And then every quarter, every 3 months or so, think about your OKRs. Think about where you've come and retro and reset. What did I learn? Did I set the wrong metrics? Can I challenge myself more? Have I actually held myself accountable? Have I enlisted others? And things like that. All right, any questions? I'm sure tons, right?
Yeah, I have a question. I want to understand more about outcome and outputs. Like, for example, when I shared about my fitness goal, like, I don't have any goal, say, I want to lose this much weight. It's more about, okay, I just want to hit the gym 3 times a week, 30 minutes. So, since the community gym is more accessible to me now, I'm concentrating there. I want to do the CrossFit, but it is not accessible to me right now. But it will be in the future, like down the road. So how do I measure my success here?
So sometimes you're going to have outputs as key results. It's going to happen, especially when you're first starting and you're not sure. What I would ask you is, you mentioned that the goal of your objective was to be healthy.
Yes.
What do you consider healthy? What are your measurements for someone that is healthy?
Like more focus? Like, I mean, healthy in the sense, like, I don't know.
Like by the end of the quarter, I can run a mile and not feel like I'm dying.
Yes. Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yes, like more stamina, like more strength, that kind of stuff.
And so by the end of the quarter, I'm eating 3 salads a week, or I'm eating this percentage of my diet is vegetables, or, you know, not my favorite bread. So you can go that far. Sometimes when we're in the beginning, we do outputs to help work us towards that big goal. So it's okay. You're technically your outcome, if you were to take every week, your 3 times 30 minutes a week, you add that up over all the weeks, and your outcome would be how many hours spent exercising.
Yes. Okay.
So I spend, say it's 1 hour a week, I spend, 12 hours exercising.
Yes.
And that would be the big outcome.
Okay.
And then each week you could mark, all right, 30 minutes, all right, that's 1 hour. I'm down to, now I only have to do 11 hours for the rest of the quarter, 10 hours for the rest of the quarter, etc. Does that make
And I think as I'm searching for a job and I'm trying to move quite a bit outside of my space, I've made the goal, because I sort of look at people, the people I want to be, so to speak, and I think, wow, that's like so far away. But what I've done, I've set a goal every week of meeting 2 people, tracking down and meeting 2 people that are in those roles and finding a way to meet with them. And I've actually found through my network that people are really, really, really helpful. And you can't be shy. So I used to be incredibly shy about calling people that I used to work with or whatever and asking for a favor. And I've actually found that people are really, really, really helpful. Maybe because we're all like in midlife and we all are going through the same thing, so so we're responsive to people. But
we
yeah,
all know that if
yeah.
I can help you get something, unless it's my job, I'll be doing my job. Just kidding. But we all know that it can be rough out there, and if we can help, most of the time people want to. So you just have to have the guts to kind of make that ask. And so your outcome, you think about a small picture, 2 people a week, but your outcome is going to be to 24 people over the quarter. So I've met 24 new people. And each week when you're in there tracking, it would be 2, 2, 2, 2.
I mean, it was similar.
Unless there's someone else.
Oh, I just want to go, just a comment on your goal. Right now, are you doing this by yourself, or do you have a partner that's going to push you? And I'll tell you, I remember once, it was after a breakup, one of my friends told me, John, I want to help you. And he goes, but I can't take you out to meet anybody right now. He goes, right now you're too depressing. He goes, but he told me the truth, right? And
True
he
friends.
said, good, true friends. And he said, I want you to start working out with me at the gym. Now, a little something about this guy, he was a former linebacker for Penn State. So this guy I got to work out just putting the weights on the machine for him and taking them off. But what really helped me was that we had 3 of us. He didn't just elicit me. He said, you, Tim, and I, we're going to all go out to the gym. And we're going to go out. And he was a little bit insane because he was online, a big guy, right?
Yeah, super energized by working out.
Yeah, he was, yeah. But he first of all started me out at a reasonable pace for me. He didn't try to do it all at once, right? But he was like made me track my progress. So hey, maybe I started out bench pressing, 10 pounds on the barbell. Yeah, and the barbell weighs 45 pounds, so
It's more than 20, guys. It's more than 20.
Yeah, and so but then at the end of a month, where was I up to, so that I could actually see my progress and start to feel better about myself. Because if you don't track where you started with and where you are now, you're not going to be motivated by the progress, because you're not going to see it, because it's so gradually growing. So that's one of the challenges. I say, find 2 people that you're going to go out with, because on any given day somebody might drop out, but then there's still that other person there.
Yeah, it's got to be someone just as accountable too. It can't be the person that's always saying, no, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he held me to it, And I will tell you, in 6 months, I was like, could not believe the amount of progress I have, because it was the community that we had, created. The 3 of us going literally 6 days a week, because this guy was insane. And by the way,
thank you for being insane, sir.
yeah, but the progress. Now, if he would have started me out saying, John, you're going to work out 6 days a week, 2 hours a time.
Right.
I wouldn't have signed up for it, right?
But the goal is track it, get the momentum, and even more importantly, have that clear outcome, because then you know what you're tracking towards. so that as you feel that momentum, it gives you more motivation to keep going, because you're like, this is actually making a difference. I feel better. I have more focus. I have more energy. I can breathe, walk up some stairs without hopping.
But don't just get one person. I want you to get 2 people, and I want you all working together, because there are going to be times when somebody's going to be sick. And if you only have one person and they get sick, then you're going to...
You just make that cash. If you don't go to the gym, you'll be $20 every time you get a challenge. Money motivates people.
Thank you.
The other thing to add to that is just that you when you're making your plan, you have to think about what's going to trip you up at that point at which you make that plan as well. You have to look at what those obstacles are going to be, because otherwise they kind of surprise you, or you use them as excuses. So that whole thing about planning and thinking, okay, this is what I want to do. But I also have to think about things that are going to stop me doing it as well. And then if you acknowledge what those things are at the start, then the chances of them tripping you up are smaller. Because
you just know yourselves.
I'm not going to have time to do that, because like March is a really busy month, and I've already got 10 evening events. So how am I going to do that? Oh, I might have to work out in the morning then instead. So it's just thinking about not using the obstacles as excuses, but just acknowledging that they're there.
Yeah, thinking about your barriers ahead of time.
Yes, so my question is, so my objective is to obtain my dream job. And one way is to, work for an organization or a company or an agency doing what I want to do. But I have also a couple of ideas. One would be to start up my own organization doing something, and another one would be just doing consulting. And those would be in a different area than the work I'm currently doing. So for me, my question is, how do I prioritize for this quarter? Which of these do I do? Because I kind of think I do a little bit of all 3. So I don't know what.
I think you know. What do you think I'm going to say?
Focus on one.
Really assess in yourself what you want to do. This next chapter is about not need, it's not, although it feels like it's about need and have to and survival and paying the bills, and it's about what do you want to do in this next chapter, because if you put your energy towards it, it's more likely to happen. So if it's having your own business and you need to get just a little side job to start building that business, then that's your focus, and you're just doing this as a means to an end. If it's having that dream job in an organization that's already pretty successful and you get to add to that success, then it's maybe doing this as a side thing just for now to kind of get there. But you have to identify your focus and your real objective. So I would say even qualified dream job. So it's a dream job in an organization that utilizes this and this skill for me. It's contributing this to an organization or growing my business, this kind of business, and being real clear about what you want, because unfortunately in life we've got a ton of stuff already pulling us in multiple directions. So if we really want to make this next chapter count and do what we want to do, then we have to have that focus and have that clarity on what it is we want to do.
Don't create an obstacle for yourself by giving yourself an out for accountability. That's essentially what you're doing, right? When you are saying, well, there's 3 things I could do, 3 directions.
There's tons of things you could do.
Yeah.
It's what do you want to do?
It's what do you want to do? Well, but then the challenge is which one would be the best? There's probably only going to be one that's going to be the best, right? So focus on that, and then maybe you find out that hey, it's not the best. Then you can go back to the second best. But if you allow your attention to be just not focused, then I think what you're saying, your point is that if you're not focused, you're not going to have the success that you're probably looking to achieve.
Yeah. I would do your own assessment of the 3. Even something as silly or simple as a pros and cons list of all 3. How does it impact my life? How does it impact my family, friendships, experience outside of work? What's my true goal? Do I not want to work for a boss anymore? Do I want to build something and feel that? And go through that thinking process, because a lot of times in the beginning it was short-term thinking that got us in certain situations. We didn't actually sit down and think, well, if I did this, then who was it that said lawyer? They wanted to be. I totally wanted to be a lawyer, but I was like, I don't want to spend nights thinking about a case and people's lives maybe being on my, so I thought about my life piece in conjunction with the work. And how does that all compile to say, what do you really want in this next step?
Sometimes I have trouble picking a metric to begin with. Like I've seen a career counselor who said, you should be talking to 2 or 3 people a day, whether that's talking about networking or an interview. I can only manage 2 to 3 a week right now. So even though I'm making progress, I still feel like I'm falling short.
Okay. So what is it that what kind of aspect would help you feel that you're actually making progress? What would you measure success on? Think long-term.
I've been unemployed since December. I haven't had an interview yet. It would be nice to at least get to the point where I could at least have an interview. Not to mention getting a job. I just want to
right. Okay. And what would if you were to just think success rate, how many interviews would you have to have by the end of the quarter to maybe obtain?
I guess that's what I have trouble deciding. I don't know.
It doesn't have to be like an exact, it's okay if
it'd be
you're
nice
wrong,
to have
right?
an interview a week.
Okay. So if you had 12 interviews in Q2, you feel like, hey, I might not have gotten the job, but I feel like I'm progressing. And with the people, it might be a qualifier. So it might be have one conversation instead of having, I can have 2 to 3 conversations with anyone, right? That checks the box. It might be having one 20-minute conversation with someone from one of the organizations I want to work with, somebody in the industry that I want to work with, that true networker that's going to get me along. So quantity is not always as good as quality. So who are those people that you have to be networking with to get closer to those job interviews? Any other thoughts, questions before we wrap up? I think we're...
Like my colleague in front of me, it's been very frustrating that after looking for work for so long, I've only had one telephone interview. So that's one of the reasons I'm taking the class, because I realized that although I've reinvented myself, there's several iterations of me out there. It's still not working. So that's why I'm hopeful that the class will allow me to focus, because all of this is overwhelming.
Okay. Are you looking for only, when you do job searches, are you looking for the same label role? Are you mixing that up? So there's project manager, there's project coordinator, there's project lead.
I'm looking at anything from project manager, program manager, director. So I'm looking at all those areas. One of my biggest problems is that a lot of them require security clearance. I don't have security clearance. And then the education thing, which is why I'm working on the PMP.
How about, anybody use recruiters in here or staffing companies, reaching out to those? So it might just be either identifying what it is. Maybe it's something like as getting your resume reviewed by someone to help make sure that it's got the right verbiage in there. A lot of this stuff is computerized these days. And so it's different things like that. So we don't necessarily want to stop doing what you're doing, but make it more effective, right? So what is it that we can do, thinking about your role, that can help you get more interviews, more conversations? Is it, like I said, verbiage on your resume? Is it that PMP certification? Is it targeting the organizations that you want to work with? Is it getting more staffing or recruiting people involved? And things like that. So that might be some of the steps. So by the end of the quarter, you have a 100% revamped resume.